Hey gamers, Rob from ZborGaming here with another weapon guide, and today's weapon guide is on the MP5. Hey, today we're going to talk about some of the stats, attachments, ADS speeds, recoil patterns, as well as a variety of multiplayer loadouts, as well as Warzone loadouts. Now stick around because the Warzone loadouts, I'm actually going to analyze some of the top YouTube loadouts that they recommend for Warzone on the MP5 and tell you which one I think is the one you should be running. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So the MP5 is one of the top tier weapons at the game. It's unlocked fairly early at 11-12 and has a max level of 57. Camo requirements are standard across the submachine gun class, and you can see those in the bottom left. As far as base stats, it's going to do 49 damage to the head, 34 to the torso, and 30 to the limbs. 30 bullet magazine size, 800 RPM, and an ADS speed of 200 milliseconds. Fairly fast reload at 1.7 seconds with 1.15 using sleight of hand. We have all the attachments listed out here for the MP5 as well as the unlock levels. Now, if you're looking for these infographics, head on over to ZborGaming.com if you're new to the channel. I'll have a link in the description below to all the infographics for several of the pages here, as well as to a page on my site that has more info on the MP5. So, as far as loadouts, I'll touch on those a little more later in the video, so we're going to go ahead and skip that for now. So, some of the advanced statistics. This will be a 1 or 2 shot kill in hardcore game modes, and the effective bullet drop off range for the base MP5 is 0 to 12 meters, and then there's a drop off at 19.5, 29, and anything over 29 meters. They have nerfed the MP5 a little. They've slightly tweaked some of the damages at various ranges because this was a very, very powerful gun. It still is. It's probably one of the best, if not the best gun in the game. But with that, we will show you all the numbers here coming up soon. Other stuff you're going to want to know: movement speed 98%, strafe speed 60%, very good mobility with this weapon. The recoil pattern is up and to the right, and we've got a lot more recoil studies coming here for the weapon. Now, as far as the specialized attachments, the MP5 has a handful of unique barrels. Two suppressed barrels, the monolithic and subsonic integral suppressors. Now, keep in mind with these, I think Exclusive Ace recently came out and sort of showed that with, it says bullet velocity on here and it doesn't show damage range as being a problem. However, the damage range is drastically affected by the various barrels you put on this weapon. So keep in mind that that subsonic integral will cut 30% to your damage range, 25% with the mini, and 15% with the light barrel. The only barrel here that gives you added damage range is that monolithic integral suppressed barrel, but it does come with a 2-frame ADS speed penalty. Now, with regards to the 10mm rounds, there really isn't a massive difference now between the 9 and 10mm rounds. It does change your range profile a little bit. It gets rid of that 19.5 meter drop off, and it does increase some of your recoil. On the whole, though, I'll show you later why really there is no need to use the 10mm rounds in this game. You only get a small benefit in that 19 to 29 meter range. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the ADS speeds. So the MP5 has a variety of attachments you can equip to speed up that ADS: the stipple grip, the FSS mini or subsonic integrals barrels, the tack laser, and then you've got two stocks: the close quarter stock and the collapsible stock. Everything else will either sort of be the same or slightly higher, unless you're going with a more of a long range optic where you'll have a couple more frame ADS speed penalty here. So as far as recoil, again here, it's a lot of the same standard attachments that you see with a variety of the other weapons. Now here the collapsible stock is very similar to what a no stock would be on other weapons, where you could lose the recoil and aim stability. So we'll go ahead and show you some of the recoil patterns for all these attachments a little later here in the video. And on the far right is the base recoil pattern of the MP5. So you can see the 9mm compared to the 10mm rounds. The 10mm rounds definitely do change up that recoil pattern, spread the bullets out some. And so again, that 9mm has a better recoil profile. So if we look at some of the damages here, you'll see that for the 9 and 10mm in that first damage range, they're identical regardless, you know, what mode you're playing. All the damages, time to kill, bullets to kill, etc. are all the same for either of those. Now, where it does change here is in one spot, that 19.5 to 29-meter range. This is your damage profile in Warzone for the 9mm, and this is for the 10. So just in this one 10-meter range here, if you use the 10mm ammo, it's going to take you a couple extra shots to kill. Actually, it's the other way around. If you use the 9mm ammo in this 10mm range, it's going to take you a few extra shots to kill. So that's really the only benefit of using the 10mm ammo, is you save 2 bullets to kill in Warzone between 19.5 and 29 meters, as well as I think it's 1 bullet to kill in standard multiplayer and Warzone. So on the whole, you're going to get worse recoil, all at the expense of 1 extra shot to kill. Then 10mm really isn't worth it. So just take my word for it. I'd stay away from that. Just stick with the 9mm rounds. So here is a video just showing the ADS speed on the MP5. Now keep in mind I have the VLK optic, and that's going to add a little bit to the ADS. Here you can see that recoil profile is up and to the right, reload speed, and there is not a whole lot of idle sway on the weapon, which is nice as well. So we'll go ahead and get here into the recoil testing. We do this at 18 meters on Candor Hideout, and you already saw here that this is that base 9mm ammo compared to the 10mm. Okay, so now we're going to take a look here at the muzzle and grip attachments. You can see the base recoil pattern. Muzzle brake sort of tightens up some of that side-to-side spread that you see here. You get sort of a nice linear vertical profile. Compensator gets rid of a lot of that first bullet kick. You can see the whole rest of the pattern sort of drops down quite a bit. So if you want to get rid of that first bullet kick, definitely look at using the compensator. Rubberized grip tape really didn't seem to do a whole lot on the whole to your base recoil pattern. If we go ahead and look at the various barrel attachments now, there's only one barrel here. Really, in a sense, none of them say that they help with your recoil control. The FSS Mini states that it hurts your recoil control, but really when you compare this to the base recoil, it doesn't look any different. So that recoil control it says you lose here, don't necessarily believe that, because frankly it looks better than a couple of the other recoil profiles. But keep in mind though that you will lose damage range with 3 of these barrels and only gain it, and even then you only gain 2 meters of range off that base damage range using the monolithic integral suppressor. But on the whole, regardless which barrel you'll choose, all of them will pretty much have about the exact same recoil pattern as not having a barrel at all. Next, we're going to look at the underbarrel attachments, and here you can see that my favorite of all these is probably the Merc foregrip, because you can see it not only lowers the overall pattern the most, but it takes that second bullet kick and it decreases it the most out of any of the other attachments. A lot of times Commando foregrip is a favorite of a lot of people. That cuts is some of your side-to-side sway, or I guess your kick out. But here I really like the Merc foregrip. So really either the Commando or the Merc foregrip would probably be the choices that I would go after here. So now we're gonna get into a couple loadouts here, and these loadouts I put together are more what I would call play style loadouts. So if you want to run a balanced play style, a stealthy build, a run and gun, or if you're looking for a low recoil accuracy build. So you can see I've got the 4 loadouts here. Um, Clearly the low recoil long shot build. Now this is, I call it the long shot is, if you're a multiplayer, you're trying to unlock your camo requirements, you're looking for a build to where you can have better control over the long shots, definitely take a look at this build. You can always swap out the optic for whatever it is you choose, but you'll have very good recoil properties with the low recoil long shot. Your run and gun build, you can see the patterns sprayed all over the place, far worse than the base recoil. So keep that in mind if you're going to run something like a run and gun build with the MP5. And then the balanced loadout also performed very well. You can see with having that compensator and commando foregrip pair, definitely cut out some of that first bullet kick. You got about 5-6 bullets here, all right on target. So either the balanced loadout or low recoil loadout are both very good to run with the MP5. So now we're going to take a look at some Warzone loadouts. So I went in and I found some top YouTubers and pulled their recommendations for Warzone loadouts using the MP5. It seems like these days every single person's out there touting the best loadout for Warzone or for multiplayer. So I wanted to put some of these to the test. So I went out and I took Exclusive Ace, J-God, Drifter, and Who's Immortal and ran the recoil patterns for all of their loadouts. Now you'll see there's a pretty common theme amongst all the loadouts, and I'll get into that on the next slide where I tell you basically which one of these I would pick. So you can see here the Ace had a pretty nice profile on his, a lot more vertical than some of the others, as well as a lot of bullets here within the red zone. J-Gods had a little bit less recoil control, most likely because of that collapsible stock he has on here. And also the Ranger foregrip, I think from our other one, didn't perform as well as some of the other foregrips. But on the whole, still a lot of bullets right on target. And you can see here he had about 6 or 7 bullets within that red zone. Drifter also has a pretty nice pattern here as well. Somewhat similar to Ace, except he looks like he has a little more of the side-to-side kick here, as opposed to what Ace had. His pattern looks a little more vertical. You can see that Drifter has some points that are on the edge out here on the 7, and Ace really didn't. From a recoil standpoint, Who's Immortal, his loadout looked like it performed the best. However, here he's running the tac laser, so that does help with some of that recoil and aim stability. But you're going to have the visible laser, and in Warzone, that's not always advisable. Enemies are going to see you, and stealth is very important in Warzone. So with that, the loadout I chose as my favorite was probably going to be Exclusive Aces. And the reason for that is when it comes to stealth, I think it's comparable with all the other builds. Was better than Who's Immortal for sure due to not having the tac laser. The extra damage over range, that monolithic integral suppressor has a higher damage output than the monolithic, which Drifter and Who's Immortal were using. As far as recoil control, it performed better than J-God and I'd say on par with Drifter, but not quite as well as Who's Immortal. All the builds then had the 45 round mags as well as the stipple grip tape. So basically, what you're looking for in Warzone is a good stealth build with extra ammo to take out multiple enemies if you run into them, some good recoil, additional damage over range, and good ADS speed. And this build basically covers it all. So I would say all 4 builds are pretty good, but my pick, if I was going to have to choose one of the 4, I would go with Exclusive Aces loadout here. So next time you hit Warzone up, you want to run the MP5, definitely take a look at this loadout, build it out. Good, solid, balanced Warzone loadout. So guys, 2 more loadouts here. This is a good loadout, that balanced build. I would suggest this for like a ground war multiplayer. Again, this is another top build. You see a lot of pros running this exact setup here. And lastly, last thing I got for you is if you're going after camo completion, you're having a hard time getting those long shot kills or maybe mounted kills, definitely take a look at the low recoil or long shot build I've got. It's very accurate, the most accurate build of any of the profiles or loadouts I showed you here. And so that is going to be a very, very good build. You can always swap out that Scout Combat optic for whatever optic you choose. But this will be a very accurate build, especially if you're going for those long shot kills to do your camo completion. So with that, that's everything I had in today's video. A lot of content here. Like I said, head on over to ZborGaming.com. I'll have a link in the description below to where you can get access to the various infographics. I'll have some of the same loadouts on there. So hey, thanks for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and we'll have more content coming out soon.